Welcome back, everyone, for the final session of this week's Streaming Media Connect 2025. I'm Steve Nathans-Kelly, editor of Streaming Media and chair of Streaming Media Connect. And thanks to you all for joining us for the last session, Going, Gone. Can biddable advertising fix CTV's fill rate slump? As always, the first person to correctly identify the track and the artist we just heard will win a $50 Amazon gift card at the end of the session, but you must be present to win. The chat is open, so enjoy chatting in the chat and place your questions for the panel in the Q&A box, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of the session. Sessions from all 3 days of Streaming Media Connect are appearing on the Streaming Media YouTube channel. Link for that is in the chat. And one more time, I'll say we'll be back live and in person in Santa Monica, October 6th to 8th for Streaming Media 2025 with our new chair, Andy Beach. And the full program is live now, and you can see it on the linked show site in the chat. And also, you can register and join the fun in Santa Monica. And if you're interested in joining a panel and you have a particular area of expertise, respond to the call for speakers and let us know what your specialty is, and we'll see if we can get you on a panel. And I think that's it for me here. So I would like to welcome to the stage Chris Pfaff of Chris Pfaff Tech Media, who always closes the show at Streaming Media Connect.
Oh, well, thank you, Steve. And yeah, we are going out with a big bang because it is going, gone. And with me are a really diverse panel and just a tremendous group of people who have been in this business. Let's get right to it. It's first and foremost, thank you, Steve. Welcome, everybody. And as I said, without further ado, I'll bring them on stage, our virtual stage. First and foremost, Laura Florence from Fremantle, all the way from LA. Welcome, Laura. Thanks for being here, as always. And from New York or Coscob, depending on which way he might be traveling these days, is Tim Ware from Future Today Marketplace. Welcome, Tim. And all the way from Marion, Iowa, when he's not in Midtown Manhattan, is Jack Perry from Z Media. Welcome, Jack. Last but not least is somebody who's not in absentia, but she may still be in a taxi in Midtown. It is raining today. So that's Christina Chung from Estrella Media Co. or Media Co. So she'll be with us in full, glorious living color shortly. But you know, as the topic mentions, we're looking at what Biddable can do to fix the CTV ad slump. Some may say it's not as much of a slump, but let's get to where you think this model is working for you. Real-time bidding has been around for almost 15 years, and Tim, I first met you when you were at Tremor Media. So talk about how you're using Biddable in what you do, and also just a little bit about Future Today Marketplace for those who don't know.
Yeah, the short answer to your question is there's not one savior, but Biddable is a big step to that end. Future Today Marketplace, and I'll go back to Tremor and get into the answer real quick, is our owned and operated. We're a connected TV publisher. Fossum TV and Happy Kids are our flagship services, and we're launching a marketplace. It's being commonly passed around, but we're a supply owner, meaning that as we begin to curate and generate enhanced identifiers and data enrichment and lean in on contextual signals and measurement, we can actually control those contextual signals and dictate and align with partners who can get the most out of that. So that's kind of where we are today, and it's really exciting. And I can kind of reflect back onto Biddable. When we met at Tremor, it was at the time that we hired the team that would eventually create the technology that is now the Magnite connected TV platform. Having kind of lived through that and frankly just been the beneficiary of working with really smart, intelligent people and kind of herding the cat, so to speak, as we start to generate demand, it's always been viewed. I mean, I remember very early on, we struck a deal with Hulu and we were their SSP, and their whole goal, they didn't need help selling out, but they saw the value of Biddable to get fair market value for the media. it's hard to go into a buyer and say, hey, Ford and General Motors and Toyota, we're raising your rates 50%. But if you can bid on this supply and you want to, and again, I'm talking very idealistic, but this is the panacea. So Biddable was a means to that end and to create auctions and look, is fill rate is low and there's a lot of performance, then it's an opportunity for performance driven, and we'll get into more specifics, but I know there's a local element. So now that we have machines that can also contribute, level the playing field so that you don't have to send a Betamax tape on a subway like it was back when we probably started, and get kind of the
Beta. I think it was a 3/4, but that's.
We don't want to get into the Scuddy infrastructure, but I'm already way off target. So, hopefully I addressed your question.
You absolutely. And I'll come back to you on what you're selling, of course, at Future Today. But Laura, you're at Fremantle, and of course, I've known you through various gigs, including Redbox, among others. But you're in a unique position, with what you do with Fremantle and the content that you have. How are you using Biddable today? And talk a little bit about how you brought your team together.
Yeah, so Fremantle, when I joined 2 years ago, we were really kind of bursting onto the scene with a lot of this key IP we own: Family Feud, The Price is Right, Let's Make a Deal, and so Baywatch. And so as we've been really ramping up distribution and all those touch points, our interesting endeavor has been having to work with every single endpoint, which all have different rule sets and jumps for us, and what those inventory positions are all vary. So it's been awesome as an opportunity because the IP so well speaks for itself. And from an advertiser perspective, it's so well known. I think our challenges have been, in a different state, because we're not just trying to solve for one platform, we're trying to solve for every platform. So it's been fun. We've been able to hire some really key strategic leadership. So my counterpart, Matt Katroser, has come over to join us from Paramount, which has been fantastic. So he's been building out our team. And then we've had some other key additions to that. I think a lot of it's been just telling our story in market. The biggest challenge, though, has just been, I think, from a biddable perspective for us, is there is no one size fits all solution. Pricing varies, platforms vary, how people need things vary. So I'm interested in this conversation today because there is so much more room for improvement. But our biggest challenge has been there's no standardization, and the jumps we're having to go through, the lack of access to certain data to create more biddable opportunities. So there's quite a bit to talk about that I think is room for improvement for us, just so that we can better sell new opportunities for new content.
Yeah, and we'll talk a bit, more about the standardization or lack thereof, because it also creates incredible opportunity for those who are either bringing in new markets or creating new hacks. And speaking of new markets and hacks, I mean, Jack, you're in an interesting position with Zeem, given the local angle, and we were talking a little bit about hyper local. Talk about how Zeem is again, using Biddable, and what your path has been toward that.
So first and foremost, we're a technology company. So our Simple Sync platform is embedded in nearly 1,000 local TV stations, and we power the live on Paramount Plus, and we send live broadcasts off to Hulu and Fubo and NFL on Sundays in the fall, and destinations like that. We took that same platform and said, all right, where can we play in this whole growing fast universe? What can we do in the, taking those, what would be Nielsen measured avails, pull them out and put new ones in. And that kind of got us off into the DAI space. So we created a technology called AdSync. So yes, we have about almost 3,000 different destinations where we take local broadcasts and we send them off to apps and websites and our own mothership, Zeem. And we pull the ads out, which would otherwise be measured by those folks over in Nielsen, and we put new ones in. And I think what we're trying to do there is say, look, we've got a brand safe environment. We're going to aggregate billions of local avails, and we're going to go out and, yes, as this topic is, we're going to go to the highest bidder, if you will, and we're going to put the best ad in front of that viewer, regardless of whether they're watching in-market programming, out-of-market programming, or even some of the, I'm in a podcast studio where we do hyper-local streaming from a diner in the West End in Marion, Iowa. Even if the person's watching a podcast about gardening, that same viewer that was also an hour ago watching the local news, we want to put the highest possible ad in front of them, and that's what we do.
Right, and I'm one of the few people who has seen that Stamos ad, the John Stamos ad in the Super Bowl, because I happened to be in Northeast Ohio at the time. So I am going to prompt you on Mr. Stamos, who I believe is your brand ambassador, and people are saying, "Say what?" So talk about the John Stamos, who, by the way, is the most ageless human being on television. And so I think there's an old salt mine in Western Iowa where you actually keep him. So maybe that's part of the deal. But talk about how that has come to be, because I believe that the hook was that he believed in your sort of local story, and that really resonated. So, but because I don't want this to end without people understanding your connection to Mr. Stamos. So
so John, wonderful person, great brand ambassador, good friend. When we first met and we were looking at, all right, we're going to do a Super Bowl commercial, we're going to buy our avails from every station that's on Zeem, go direct to those stations and buy, 2 or 3 spots actually during the Super Bowl from many of those stations. The first thing John said was, hey, what's happening to local? Isn't it, is that maybe dying out? And what I said back to John was, everybody is somewhere, they're from somewhere, they're going somewhere, and things are happening somewhere. And if you think about that, it's the local content that will help you, whether you're going somewhere or from somewhere or whatever. So local news, weather, and sports is the lowest common denominator content. In my mind, it's the perfect complement to binge viewing. You come out of Yellowstone, where should you land, or where could you land? And we think you might want to land on local. And when John heard that explanation, instead of bouncing me out of there, he said, you know what, I like that. Let me help you take this Zeem to the next level. And he's done a great job for us.
That's great. I thank you for explicating that. And I think that he is certainly doing a good job for you. But this is, let's say it's showbiz. And speaking of showbiz, it's all about money at the end of the day. So how do all of you make biddable ROI positive? And also, how does AI help in this regard? Laura, I want to start with you on this one.
So we have partnered with Elemental TV as our ad server. And so a lot of those contextual cues that Tim was referring to, we are optimizing and having to use AI to fill in for a lot of these demand signals that are missing, which is, I think, a huge opportunity. We've been speaking with Nielsen and a few others that are trying to, just like they try to normalize in all the other digital workflows, right? How do you fill in and optimize missing metadata? I'd love to find a more seamless way to be able to offer these 70,000 segments and all of these different things to optimize for that. So I think that's what I'm personally looking at. It doesn't really exist right now, though. I mean, the more we tend to find whoever the partner is that we need to do these jumps and pass-throughs, though, there's a million ways this can be improved. But right now, I mean, the tech setup for us is optimized to each of these, endpoints that we do have. I think some of the big things, though, still, Chris, that openly, with others has been when we start to have these live opportunities, new show opportunities, all of these premium opportunities, how are we flagging and passing that flag in a way that does indicate premium and these other, and that's been a big thing for me of like, how do we make this happen more? Because I can bring in more shows, but I have to get premium value for them. And it can't just be through direct sales. We want to do it through Biddable, but it's been, how is that relationship going to happen with these partners? Trade Desk and all of these others, right? What are those flags? And so
exactly. Yeah. And I think that, and again, live being, really that's the sort of the last bastion of what we see in over the air. sports, news, music, but really, I mean, getting back to what Jack just said about sports. But Tim, yeah, talk about what you're doing on that side to get to something that's ROI positive and yes, AI for future today marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, ROI positive is been, I don't want to say fairly standard. ROI positive, I guess it's a relative statement, the cost of programming, if you start to look at all the investment in tech and OpEx. But, you know, the reality is, based on your original question, is how does kind of Biddable help get us there? It's really selling the value, and Laura said this, it's selling the value of premium supply. The way and again, this sounds really painfully obvious, so I'm sorry if it sounds painfully obvious, but I'm trying to keep it simple. Like, there's connected TV, and there's like YouTube, and then there's like everything else. And I think
Right.
one of the kind of like myths, I would suppose, is everything is like addressable, meaning I'm going to like target a subscriber and someone who's logged in. I think maybe half the connected TV audiences are logged in, but the reality is, because the contextual signals are more deterministic in nature, we're not relying on an IP address or a legacy ID, which is also becoming vilified by, you know, privacy laws. We can have more effect as targeting starts to, you know, we're kind of back to the future. We're looking at signals, and it can be as simple as genre. And now there's technology like Anoki TV who can do scene level data targeting. So the long short of it is, we need to reinforce the quality content. And I'll give Laura another plug. You know, we got, you know, Baywatch and just professionally produced supply, which is frankly a signature of connected TV. To get on the big screen, there's going to be less UGC, and UGC is going to be, and again, I'd like to have UGC's problems within YouTube and all the shorter videos, but it's establishing the value, and then it's creating bid density. And it doesn't necessarily even need to be, obviously scarcity helps get bidding up, but quality targets, quality data that's getting passed to these targets, whether contextual signals, transparency, and you know, it could be geography, it could be time of day. Again, all the machine learning, all the AI is combining to create more predictive segments. So it's not as simple as saying, hey, we're going to do contextual, but you're going to put that in the algorithm with a couple of dozen other signals, including taxonomy. So that quality times that level of targeting really is driving results. And I talk about like a Proximic by ComScore, which is a really neat company, and Audigent, who just got acquired by, who uses Proximic within their segments, right? There's got acquired by Experian, right? They're better. It's not necessarily just the fact that it's kind of like easier and allowable, but they perform better and they drive better results and outcomes. So if you combine that quality with those outcomes, and you'll start to get bidding. And then as the quality of that inventory comes on, the ad tech should take care of itself, the ad server and the
right. And then it's basically Metcalfe's law, for those who know that. So the net quality of the network increases with usage, etc. So and speaking of the law, Christina Chung has broken the laws of New York physics, which is getting to where she needed to be during a rainstorm in a taxi cab in Manhattan. And we vamped pretty well for you. But again, you know, this question, Christina, is really about, you know, how do you make biddable ROI positive, and AI, how does that help in this regard, particularly for what you're doing at MediaCo?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Sorry for the little bit delay. Stuck in traffic in Midtown on a very
You are a
busy
drama
work.
queen, but you know,
I try. Is my hair okay?
we all
from the
we all
cab?
try. You succeed,
He has
and
a
I knew
casting call in 30 minutes, Chris. Don't hold on.
I knew you would. So anyway, go ahead.
Well, in any case, so MediaCo, we do a whole bunch of advertising via, you know, CTV platforms, programmatic. Biddable is one of our many opportunities to drive revenue growth and revenue generation. I think one of the things that really has helped us, especially when it comes to that AI component, and I know Laura touched on this earlier, is what are those standardized metrics or standardized metadata that needs to be passed through. And so for us, yes, that's maybe a component of AI. It's feeding a machine to essentially understand what are the different genres, ratings, standardizations that are used by programmatic partners to enhance the buying opportunity. And so for us, that ROI is, it drives actually a lot of ROI. I think historically, what we can say is 4 years ago, when we were first started out as a company doing programmatic buying, we didn't have a lot of those signals being passed to our programmatic partners. But then we did a very large assessment with many of our SSP partners and programmatic partners, identifying what are the different signals that you guys need to have from us. So we talked to the Magnites, we talked to the OpenXs, all of our different SSP partners, and asked them, like, what are the ones that you're looking for, as well as some DSPs like the Trade Desk. And so what we did was we did a compilation of all the different metrics that each of these partners need and need to provide to their respective agencies and clients. And to Laura's point, there's no standardization in the industry today. And so it was up to my team's task to build that standardization so we can at least manage what we're providing to most of our partners in a standardized method that matches what they're looking for. And that helped our ROI significantly. We saw many big jumps in percentages over the years just because of that, that change in how we process the different metadata sending through to the programmatic stream.
Right. And Jack, I mean, you have a platform that it seems to be built for some of this, but talk about what you're doing in this search for ROI positive, and also a little bit about what AI you have in that stack, because I think you're doing some different things there.
Well, I think, yeah, in our tech stack we call AdSync. I mean, look, my first AI was in 1989 when I wrote a software package called Running Counts, and it told you when you were getting too many miles on your shoes, and it told you to go out and buy a new pair of shoes. So, I mean, AI to some extent is just code. Been around a long time.
CTV, sneakers, who can tell the difference?
So, aligning the best possible ad in front of a viewer is the most important thing that any of us can do. Here's the things that I know from how I watch content and ads run through our system. They all love live very, very much. The fill rates for live are much higher. The CPMs are higher. And so we focus on, well, one of the things I'm trying to prove is, can I make an audience of one profitable? And if I can, and the way we're doing that is we're making it so inexpensive for our partner, the content creators, to take content from the source, put it to the cloud, send it to unlimited number of destinations at the lowest possible cost. And we're doing things to trying to pioneer on the content side, on the live content side, to try to give our advertising partners who want that live programming, truly want the live programming, give them more opportunities. And we've done everything from an ice fishing shanty and, practically the North Pole with a couple of people sitting in there pulling great big monster fish out of live on a stream, to streaming the entire Route 66 24/7 with people riding in the van, carpool karaoke style. So our focus has been on how do we bring the content and the advertising worlds together, because they clearly like live, nothing against on demand. It's great, what we want, when we want, whatever device. But the reality is that when people are tuning in and wanting live programming, that's when they're paying really the most attention, because it's the content they asked for. So our focus has really been on blending those two worlds together.
Right.
Jack,
And go ahead.
Can I ask a question? Is that okay? Jack, it's super interesting because I think for us too, because we're seeing such high unsold rates, obviously getting local into the mix makes a big deal. But how do you deal with price floors and everything? I mean, honestly, we're being given a lot of different directions by different people for price floors. So like, how low can you really go for some of this too? And it's like, there's so much variation in the value of content, the pricing, and where it's coming from, especially in market. But how do you think about that?
How I think about it is a great question. Thank you. Because there are players out there that are saying, let's drop those floors down as much as possible.
Yeah.
Let's bring in the Candy Crush ad, if you will. I don't do that. We represent, thousands of local broadcast streams. We represent, hundreds of FAST channels. We aggregate, some really brand safe, high quality content. So we don't drop our floors. We just say the heck with it. We'll weather this storm, and we'll, from the tech side, try to fix it from the tech side. Try to enable our content creators to do more, to create more opportunities there. So I would say we don't get into the game of dropping, or chasing that low CPM. We get in the game of helping our content creators create more and better content, to keep the CPMs higher. Laura, I hope that helps a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, actually, I agree with that too. I find that fascinating just because as MediaCo, we are representing a multicultural audience. And so our CPMs are higher, we hit a different audience. It's important for us to maintain the value of our supply, because they are reaching a certain audience. And it's very important that we are able to say, like, we can reach this, but you do have to retain a certain value. And by decreasing it, which we're all getting pressure on, you have to be able to stand strong and say, no, like, this is a very valuable inventory set and audience that you're trying to reach. And you have to maintain that, those higher floors in order to, and make sure that your partners understand that.
And content is still king. And Tim, you are part of a team that has Coco Melon.
Melon. Yeah, I would just add to the last, just to round that out, like, I wouldn't even say it's the dirty secret. The reality is, if you're programming a 24/7 network, we all know there's direct response teams. And when the times are sell through and economic times like we're going through, they tend to be busier. But they're not going to run in prime time. They're not going to run on Christina's valuable targeted or Jack, your local market that may, be. So you're going to get what you get. And when you get the Rogaine ad and you sell your little, you're going to, and that's direct response and remnant. So that, fills it up. And every major network today has a DR team that's hard at work. To go back to your question with me with Future Today, Chris, I'm sorry. I just wanted to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Did you want me to?
No, I wanted you to talk about your content a little bit here. So
yeah, Coco Melon. So it's interesting, right? I'm going to spare you the whole thing, but Future Today is not a consumer facing brand, but we're one of the dare I say, kind of legendary connected TV publishers. So when you go back to 2012, when I met Vikrant Mathur, the co-founder, there were 3 visits you'd go. You'd go to the Bay Area, you'd go see AdRise, which turned into Tubi TV, and they're doing quite well right now. And there was Flingo, and they turned into Samba, and they're selling ACR data, and God bless Ashwin and that company. And there was Future Today, and they're Future Today. They were the 4th app on Roku with iFood. They founded the developer and created the app. They launched Happy Kids, and I'll get to Coco Melon in 2015, which was a smash success. And, the good news, it was a smash success. It has Sesame Street, it's got Coco Melon, it's got Pokemon, it's got, ages 2 to 12 to 13. And now those people have grown up. So we've got a big stable of family shows. But with kids, right, there's COPA laws, and I'll get to privacy. And then FilmRise is a movie studio, and Fossum TV is our flagship service. And Fossum TV is the best kept secret. I worked at Sony at Crackle. Fossum TV is 10 times the viewership and a substantial better back-end technology that makes Biddable goals and revenue and optimizations possible. We're kind of in the process. Marketplace is a means to that end. But just getting into the family section and the COPA and how that also aligns with the marketplace and these signals is, if we can start to leverage contextual signals and genre, we mask IP address and we mask IDs. So suddenly you're using advanced features that are also privacy compliant. And when we're able to mask legacy IDs and IP address, that allows us to be transparent. That allows us to theoretically share show level information, minimally in the bid stream data. And whereas if you were using a legacy ID or IP address, you couldn't run in a Happy Kids. You can't run. Blindside is a great movie, right? It runs on FOSSum and gets a big audience. It also has Family Movie Night, and it's ad supported. We can now target PG rated with a brand because you don't need a COPA flag where you're not passing PII, an IP address and device ID. So the long-winded way of saying there's bigger opportunities with ushering in new ways to target and measure connected TV supply that are also privacy compliant. So it's really a headwind, which is turning into a tailwind if you have family viewing.
Yeah, I think that shift is going to accelerate. So, you know, we and by the way, for those who were might have been asking that, Laura mentioned Elemental TV. That's not Elemental owned by Amazon, which leads me to the next question, which is that larger tech players are now flooding the market with inventory. And how do each of you respond to this with biddable advertising? Laura, I want to start with you on this one.
Oh, this is a case-by-case basis, and it's super, super tricky. I think the parameters being passed and allowed to us for every single platform vary so widely. And I think it's been one of those, I mean, again, it's an interesting dilemma to be in, having been with Tim at Crackle and Redbox and everything, and then to be on this side of the shelf, which is like, you know, I want everyone's best goal to be that we can fill the inventory. And that is clearly now not happening because there is so much of it, right? And we are seeing that the customers are shifting to CTV, to streaming, and to social, but we are unable to keep up with monetization and whatever we say about the amount of inventory out there. So, and the reason I bring this up is, you know, if we had equal access to be able to bid and optimize and then let us do what we do well, which is sell the show, which, you know, our platform partners are not able to do, right? They're selling on audiences and they're selling on genres. It would help both of us, right? But that's not necessarily the case. Like, every platform has its own sensibility, which means we're getting different parameters that we are allowed to pass or not pass. And, you know, and I think it's one of those kind of like rapidly developing spaces where we're all just gonna have to work together. So yeah, this won't be as straightforward of an answer for us, unfortunately, just because there is no one solution for us right now.
Right. And I, you know, please chime in, anyone else on this, because I think that and Christina, I don't know if this is something that you're having to deal with, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key here is that scale doesn't always guarantee relevance. And so I think at the end of the day, like, as I mentioned, we are a multicultural provider, and we, you know, Black and Latino Americans represent 5.1 trillion share of the US GDP. And they want relevant content, right? It's not like they have all these general market, like general content. And a lot of these larger tech players, as you mentioned, they do have all of this resources and all of these inventory. But what do they really want? They want things that are catered to them, that fits their culture, fits their needs, their families. And so I think, like, what we really need to be careful about is that relevance element, that is a very important part of this market, and why, to the point earlier, is we can retain those value, whether that's in pricing or in the content, through that relevance.
And just to echo on that, I think what we've had to do is overcompensate with our direct relationships with advertisers to show them that value, because it's not necessarily something programmatically we can deliver, like hyper deliver at the moment right now. But we know our audiences, we know who they are, and we can contextualize that. So it's been an interesting hybrid approach for us that we cannot just serve from a purely biddable perspective right now. Just not possible.
Right. But that's a good answer. And I mean, I think that with your audiences, and particularly live, which I want to get to again in a second, I think that definitely helps. But there's something else there, because again, as CTV has grown, if not exploded, and we've all had to deal with the fact that there is no real standardization for the type of biddable advertising that we're doing, the kind of programmatic, the auction. But, you know, we're also colliding. I mean, we've talked a little bit about YouTube, which represents many things, but I mean, social in general. I mean, how do you come at this with CTV and social? And you know, I think this is also where your content, you know, seems to play. But you know, Jack, I'm just curious, you know, since you were writing software for sneakers in the 80s, you know, how you look at social today in terms of hyper local.
You know, I think you got to follow the viewers to wherever they are. I think we lean on social as kind of that first point of navigation to bring the viewers to the content that we may have and we may be offering. I think, you know, last week we embedded with the Beach Boys and Club Kokomo. So we were live for practically 36 hours where we had a national sponsor. We were covering behind the scenes of the band, you know, them sitting around having, you know, drinks or doing meet and greets with various, you know, fans that were there. We were covering the, you know, the Beach Life concert, and every few minutes we were running, you know, a minute long ad pod. So I think our focus has been on how do you do really creative live? How do you bring in a national sponsor that doesn't really care? Well, they care, of course, but they're not bidding for anything. You know, they've said, look, we believe in this event and we want to be the showcase sponsor for that. And then based on the number of viewers who are watching and how many ad pods we run, you know, then the biddable part comes in and we monetize it based on how clever we are. And we use social then to drive the viewers to that environment. And we thought, you know, partnering with the Beach Boys would be a pretty good start to get that kind of test going. So those are some of the things we're testing. Nobody has all the answers in this, but you know, I'm leaning heavy on live, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, and on that note, I mean, Laura, I mean, this is tailor-made
This is
for
our
you.
sweet spot. I freaking love social. So I have never been at a company this close to the authentic creation of content at the scale of Fremantle. So we're the 6th largest social media provider behind Sony. And, you know, like, because our formats travel so well. So America's Got Talent, the Got Talent franchise is you know, replicated in hundreds of territories and places. Idol, X Factor, Family Feud, like it's awesome. And so we have this very authentic relationship between YouTube and our social handles that we partner on with, you know, production where we run, that gives us a couple different things, right? I think there's an advertising lens that we can amplify audiences and target. But again, we speak authentically. That's the nice thing about social is there's no restriction on the creative where it has to be a 10, 15, 30-second spot. It could be something that actually means something to the audience. And it's a much better experience, I think, right? I think the other piece that's been really exciting has been being able to really understand who that audience is, like Christina, going back to what you were saying, and just leaning into like, we're not going to be anything else but what we are, and then amplify that message of like, hey, this is what's available for you, but we're touching them everywhere. So there's like this marketing element, there's this advertising element, but it's been able to allow us to do really unique partnerships. Amazon Fresh licensed Supermarket Sweep to play the games in the stores, and then we can amplify that on our social. We can run it on our Buzz or DigiNet. Like the opportunities are synergistic through the entire footprint. But we're seeing there's 90% usage on a daily basis for several social, like, right, Instagram, Facebook, depending on the audience, right? And so, and they're searching there now. Like TikTok now is search, it's not Google. So again, it's meeting the audiences where they are and then creating authentic, unique brand stories that match to our IP and what our audiences are looking for. It is my favorite thing about being here. Our social team is absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was the gold mine that we were waiting for years and years and years and years and years. And I go way back with Fremantle to days when I represented Telescope. So I have been at the Idol finals when it was the Kodak Theater. But this is an amazing thing. But Christina, since you were just prompted by Laura, yeah, talk about the crossover with what you're doing in social, because I think it's an interesting opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're actually in the middle of producing our Tengo Talento Mucho Talento show, which is one of our largest programs, very similar to America's Got Talent for the Hispanic audiences. And we've actually converted this whole show to actually add a social component So we're using YouTube to bring in viewership, have polls and different interaction and engagement through users. And I think that what that does, it combines the CTV lean back experience that we've historically known and adding in this user engagement element that people can touch, feel, and like really get in the weeds about how this production is being done, interacting with our cast and our talent. So it's been a really great opportunity to really see the whole spectrum in terms of engagement with our audiences, everything from the couch all the way through on your phone and in person. So I think it's been a really great opportunity to really bring in that holistic experience to the user.
Yeah, and Tim, talk about what you're doing on that social side, and maybe it's forthcoming. I don't know.
We're launching a bigger, bolder baking network. We announced it at our new front. So we're working with curators to align with, and again, that aligns with the lifestyle brands that we have. The legacy one I mentioned, iFood TV on Roku, going back a year. There's a presence within some YouTube channels, but so to me, not to, I'm more of a simpleton in terms of kind of ads and CTV. But social is a means to that end. Obviously, there's viral elements and unique aspects to all of our programming that drive it. And really tying that back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, and I think Christina mentioned with multicultural, it's like, how do we manage the going, gone, the biddable opportunity? It's really, we all provide something unique and something premium and some value. And Christina, you mentioned relevancy. We're not going to compete with 125 million Amazon Prime viewers. It's not, but at the same time, I was at a beat retreat in Ritsu Trivedi's on stage. Like, this isn't a reach game anymore. It's not a day where we have like 3 or 4 networks, if we remember, in a cable, and you're getting a share and that's who's watching. There's the fragmentation. I don't know if we've touched it, but the fragmentation is just a prairie fire right now. So it's really, how does a QSR brand work with a free AVOD FAST service and get more people to buy more Whoppers and, at the risk, and then qualifying that, how do you provide ROAS and work with these new measures? A lot of these new measurement, we touched upon it with like the Tremor video days, all that, invention, those fourth wall companies and the Scuddy and the, it's all now a reality. And again, I like to say, when science fiction is now kind of science, so we can measure results, carve out our audience. And guess what? Because we're a native streamer, we have very little duplication with a lot of the traditional media services. So as demand gets smarter and more qualified and really starts to, a year ago, it was just like a shotgun approach. Now it's more thoughtful.
But
and again,
it's the thoughtfulness and the smartness of the demand side, right? That's where all the money is. But the thing is, it's the education that we can provide to them, that these are available and accessible across many different platforms and traditionally siloed businesses. So I think that's the key, is like really teaching that demand side about all these different platforms that they have access to.
Right.
Well, and just to echo, all of these are interlinked, right? We can have live social and engagement tactics on all of our touch points that will carry it, that they back and forth. They're all just one mechanism of reach, which is just to double down on it. It's one brand touch point. We're not buying, we shouldn't be buying in silos. I hope that is the biggest push we start doing, because you need to have a media mix that touches multiple touch points. There's, I don't know, it's something like 36 hours of multitasking media done in a day that you're on 4 different devices and using social while you watch. So I just, how do we push people to test and learn and try? There is no equivalent metric across those outside of, if I can show in real time people are engaging, at least I'm authenticating they're actually engaging. Do you know?
Right. And that engagement, again, goes back to how you're curating, how you're programming and learning. Back to Tim's point, what do you learn from this? Yeah. And I want to go to sort of the IAB part of this, starting first with new fronts. How are the new fronts for everybody? Want to go around? Christina, I think, was the winner here. So let's go around the room. Give us how the new fronts were for you, and did you learn anything?
Yeah, New Fronts was awesome. I'm so proud of my team who put the whole production together. We announced some pretty amazing things. This was the first, I guess, go to market where we announced that Estrella and Hot 97 and WBLS are now one company. So we have, so many amazing programs that we're combining together. So we have new shows from like Doncetto Allare, as I mentioned earlier, Tango Talento Mucho Talento. We have Summer Jam coming to our new Hot 97 TV channel. So that's really exciting. Our Ebro in the Morning show is also going to be in a live stream format that happens daily. And so it's just like we had a really good production. We had Funk Master Flex come on stage, Nessa.
You're killing me with the old school.
Really it was a fantastic performance for the team. And so we were really excited to announce it this year.
Oh man, I'm just loving that a lot. I got some SHIT for talking about Ed Lover on the prep call. I'm old school, man. I just love that. Love it a lot. Tim, how was your new front?
I was thrilled. I've been with the company going on 9 months. So I was kind of like having come from kind of Sony pedigree. I was really, frankly, thrilled to be in the crowd. Our sales lead, Alex Packla, did an amazing job. And it's interesting because, Laura, you touched upon it. Again, it sounds obvious, but there's a lot of education. A lot of the buyer holdco people who know Future today, know us, but we're kind of awesome. TV doesn't roll off your tongue. So it was great. It was a great stage to be on. Within a week, when you're talking side by side with Vizios and Rokus and Googles of the day before. So we were thrilled to be there. We really represented well. I was personally happy because the co-founder talked about marketplace and really gave an effective nod at, why we're doing it and why transparency matters. And I feel we're in a really unique position to try to usher in new ways of buying and measuring and really driving those outcomes, because a lot of the more traditional brands who were in the upfront week don't need to necessarily work as hard, and then they frankly don't have the versatility that we do. So we were excited. I thought the vibe was very good at the new fronts. It's obviously macroeconomics are still kind of a little wonky, but there was a general upbeat mood and enthusiasm, and I think connected TV sits squarely in that.
It's TV now. Come on. And
Laura,
it's
TV, right? But there's
right.
all the upfronts are down, but the connected TV will benefit.
And by the way, Tim, you have some homework, because Christina is the smartest kid in the class. She put the Business Wire release on the Estrella Hot 97 WBLS new front press release. Put the spelling of Fossum in the chat so people don't walk away. No, this is serious. This is serious, because for SEO, you have to spell stuff correctly, like Fremantle, right? Am I right, Laura? Laura, how was your new front?
We don't have one. That's it. Well, because a lot of our shows already have broadcast level touch points that we are just part of as product. I mean, it's been the fun part about being Fremantle is the marketing awareness and the activity on our shows happens at multiple stages. So, we really take positions and placements as partners with a lot of people. But I think as that evolves, I'm looking forward to the day where our team does do exclusive and original releases, but that's not yet. And I think so some of that is just how are we partnering with NBC and CBS and ABC and everybody for our new shows and AGT's 20th season this year and everything else.
Wow.
So it's been a lot of I get to sit in a very privileged place of just being across a lot of things, and we're learning a lot. Some of the big takeaways, though, for us that we're leaning into that several companies, Samsung, LG, Roku, a lot of these partners is we can take our shows and IP with these initiatives that they're doing for Samsung's new ad breaks that they're doing that are gamified, because 92% of our content has active play along activity, right? So there's new partnerships that we're doing that we can't even talk about yet, but with big established SVOD players that are doing certain things in certain categories that they're kind of teasing in these upfronts. So for us, it's just leaning into a lot of these new and innovative gamification, e-commerce, fandom, ways that, again, create deeper meaning for advertisers, that people are engaging with our content and our platform's content, and that we can value that at a more premium value rather than just being potentially like lean back viewing, right? That we know they're engaged. So that's what we really looked at for the new fronts this year, was just more of like, what are those innovations in tech opportunity for more premium value, and how
Right.
can we provide additional thought leadership to participate in that with our partners?
But in addition to everything else you do, I mean, that sort of fills in that if built, because I think that you're a great partner for anything that you would see at a new front that would be an if built with Brett and whomever. And, you know, I mean,
Well, that's been the hardest part for me not being at a platform, is I could just build and I could own. And in this one, it's been, let me be the content leadership to try, because we own the IP. And that what was the hardest part, right? We didn't own the IP, so I couldn't do all those creative, innovative things.
Right.
I could put tech against it, but it wasn't that deep, authentic relationship, where now it's like,
Mhm.
I'll be that content. And, you know, Andy Beach and I did this last year with Microsoft, where it's just, now you have this like this partnership of, you are the tech, you understand your customer and how they're consuming, and you can do that play out in relationship, but let me be that innovation on the content end. So that's been the kind of like, again, the partnership here is the critical underpinning for us of, we don't need to be the solution for everything. We'll do what we do really well.
Exactly. And Jack, new front, up front, everywhere front for you?
So, you know, our goal is to make the content go from here to there and be monetized every time a viewer watches it. So, but two of the things we did with respect to this kind of time of year, New Fronts time of year, is we launched a half dozen new shows out of our Times Square live streaming studio, everywhere from.
And remind our viewers where that is.
So we're at in the Residence Inn Times Square building in the 38th and 6th Avenue.
I know it, yeah.
And so we're live streaming out of there, really embracing the indie content creator community. But the reason that we do that is, on the tech side of things, look, Oprah became Oprah because she's great and because she had a local partner in every market that made sure you knew Oprah was on every day at 4 o'clock, Monday through Friday. And those stations could do that because they had exclusivity on that programming. So on the tech side of things, we launched a new technology called Zeemcast, which can take any content in and then syndicate that content out over the top, if you will, on a market by market basis. But more important than that is it sets standards for delivering that content to big streamers and small streamers. I mean, look, we provide 208 CBS local broadcasts to Paramount Plus. So we're pretty good at taking big content, small content, any size market content, and putting it out to the big players. So our focus was a little bit on the content side, but more on the streaming tech side, to make sure that big streamers and little streamers could get access to market exclusive content if they want it.
Great. And now your homework is to put your URL in the chat. I'm serious,
Okay.
Jack. But this is I'm going to get to the second IAB part of the segment, which is just a basic question for all of you. Is there a standardized metric that you would want for Biddable in CTV? Don't jump all at once. You can just say yes or no.
You know, the parameters, the OpenRTB 2.6 going to 3.0 is happening. Frankly, it's really adoption of, you know, the standards that are being written, and there's another session in a couple of weeks. I've gotten re-engaged with the IAB and the IAB Tech Lab, and I'm really excited at the work that they're really doing. Ultimately, it does come down to transparency and enabling. The key is you can come up with standards, but then there's ad tech that need, like we've been talking about VAST 4 for maybe a decade now, and it hasn't been, and that's fine. We've been getting by on VAST 2 and 3 and in some degrees 1. But I think we're at this tipping point or chasm, if you will, where a lot of the data parameters and the transparency now needs to be lit up. And I alluded to the fact that demand is starting to now become qualified, and they're questioning the value of where the impressions are running, which is short-term contraction, but long-term benefit. data, for example, and I sit on these curation, there's a lot of tech companies sitting in there. I sit on there because I'm a supplier, because a lot of times rules get hatched and I get
Right.
data because they
Right.
don't serve my needs. And I get the question like, well, why isn't there a data parameter? And I'm told, well, that's in the data group. I go, yeah, but somebody could be defining like a movie lover as somebody who searches, there's different there's better data, there's good data and bad data.
There's better data for this, but this is why we do these sessions as well, because there's one or two people out there who are going to see this and say we need to push for whatever X is. So thank you for talking about real-time
My
bidding.
short answer is data.
Yes.
Transparent.
The answer is yes. Now, we've got to get to a question because we're running out of time. But first, I want to do something because Tim mentioned this about QSR. So I've been noodling. So how would we do something really, really groovy with Biddable and QSR? What we do is we go to Tim and iFoods, sell it through Buzzer. We get Laura involved, and we get Jack to live stream as he's going across Route 66 with a Mexican street truck that Christina and company put together. And that's how we get all four doing something cool for QSR, and it'd probably be Taco Bell. They'd probably never do Mexican street food, but if the price is right, they're gonna do it because it's live. God damn it. Now, we have one question before we wrap, and it's from Anonymous. I love Anonymous. He's such a great guy. Can non-premium publishers only sell through programmatic or direct deals? Possibly.
It depends on your scale, and it depends on what your programming is and kind of the value, if there's a niche involved, but certainly you need to consider who you're going to get that message to. It's really hard to boil the ocean, having gone to a couple of startups and having some success and some flops.
Yeah.
We've all
Yeah,
been
I was
there.
going to say, you have to know who your customer is, have a very definitive, I keep like throwing back to Christina because your answer was like perfect, which is like, what is your unique value and your relationship with your customer, and why is that important to an advertiser? And then you can craft a story, and then what is your reach and that tech and ability to do it? So I think you really need to answer that question first, and then you can kind of get in and price it and all the other pieces, but it is not an endeavor I would like under task, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, and I think that you can get enough data from engagement. So to wit, before we wrap, I'm going to mention that we're going to create a game show in a local Whole Foods for Ava Booty, who has been the most aggressive commenter, and it'll be in the falafel aisle, and it'll be she'll be doing a game show segment live with Fremantle. I got to throw that to you, Laura, because I think that would be a cool one.
Yeah,
So-
I'm sure I'll pitch it in our development meeting. Yeah.
She says friendly, not aggressive. I love it. She was friendly, but hey, come on, New York, we got to be aggressive. We've hit the 5 o'clock on the East Coast, which is a day part time shift. The term we don't use in CTV, but
early fringe, Chris. Early fringe, right?
Early fringe, yes.
Early fringe. There you go.
Very, very, very much so. But I want to thank all four of these fabulous panelists. We could have gone on for another hour. Our new friend, Jack Perry, CEO of Z Media, go to 38th and 6th and hang. And Jack, I do want to party with you. I'm serious. You're too cool. Laura Florence from Fremantle.
And Stamos.
And Stamos and John Stamos, the three of us will party. Tim Ware from Future Today Marketplace. Thank you, Tim, as always. And the woman who came out of the cab in the rain and was the smartest kid in the class, Christina Chung from Estrella Media Co. Back to you, Steve Nathans Kelly. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thank all of you. This has been fantastic. We got to thank one more person, Bill Spence, our executive producer. Bill, are you still there? Come on camera.
Thanks,
Hey,
Bill.
thank you,
Thank
Bill.
you, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a great 3 days, and we have one more Amazon gift card to give away to Ed Westfield, who was the first person to correctly identify Bonzo Goes to Bitburg. My brain is hanging upside down by the Ramones.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Ed. You will receive a email in the next week or so telling you how to claim your prize. And that's all for us. I hope we see you all in Santa Monica. Thanks for a great week, Stream Media Connect.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good luck and good night.